Okay, this is Ryan Wickler Reviews, and today is episode 105, Season 1, Episode 5, the 5th episode of Season 1 of Hell's Kitchen. First aired June 27th. They're just coming off, who was it? Mary Ellen just got eliminated last episode. Coming off that. Yeah. So it starts off, people reacting to Mary Ellen, obviously. This season has more those friendship kind of connections, so people are sad. I've mentioned that all before, though, so I'll move on. At the beginning of the day, after they're finally a decent service from one kitchen, Ramsay tells them that someone on their team to name the strongest and the weakest. He chooses Ralph. Ralph says he's the strongest on the blue team, which, is fair. It's fair, totally fair. And he says the weakest is Andrew, which, obviously makes Andrew mad. He's already someone who gets mad easily. But the fact that he's, improved and still gets called the weakest is frustrating for him. Red team, Chris is called up. He says he's the strongest. Yeah, no surprise there. He called himself executive chef. He definitely kind of sits on a high horse. A little bit. And then he kills the weakest Jimmy. And Jimmy doesn't take this any bad ways. He just kind of keeps it as motivation. Anyways, the challenge in this episode was pasta making. Something that's occurred a few times in the course. So, challenge, make as much pasta as possible. This is a lot similar to the squid cleaning challenge and any other challenge like that, the quality control. This past challenge even gets brought back quite a few times, but it's still a solid challenge. This is a good test. And classic Hell's Kitchen fashion, the difference is by 0.04 pounds, a win for the red team. Blue team not happy. Ralph and Jessica saying, "My mother would not serve that. My grandmother would not serve that. I wouldn't be caught dead serving that." They're Italian. They're obviously very disappointed. But the reward is probably the most exciting one thus far. I got a tour on a gondola, which is nice, wine cheese, and that's it's a step up from just dinner with Ramsay. Just all the other rewards have been so far. So that's a good plus. Punishment was making the pasta. Blue team was really pissed. They took the punishment very hard. Especially after they've been on a losing streak with punishments. This was a real not good for the blue team's morale. Okay. Service. Ramsay announces that it's double booked. Pasta night. So on top of a new menu, they have to serve everyone in 2 hours, while the other team wait staffs for them. So, it starts off, the blue team volunteers to be in the front. The blue team, Andrew and Ralph both had wait experience. Jessica did not. So 2 of them were already experienced, so that went well for them. In the red kitchen, they went fine. An hour in, they'd served most appetizers, moving on to entrees. Slow to be expected. To serve the entire thing in 2 hours, honestly a little unrealistic. No one kind of goes in there expecting either of them to actually manage that. Anyways, Elsie gets a little flustered. Jimmy, notably, gets a few plates dirty. He puts up a dish and the plate is dirty. This kind of starts this dirty bowl Jimmy running joke, which reoccurs quite a few times. He gets called it. He gets his redemption. It shows up a few times as he makes the same mistake. Just a nice running joke that brings the thing together, really. Yeah, anyways, Jimmy's makes that mistake. Chris gets yelled at for saying "we chef," which is something that happens a weird amount in the show as a whole. People say "we chef" and they get yelled at. I don't see why it's that big a problem. Ramsay thinks it's pretentious, but yeah. So Elsie and Chris pulling out entrees, not very fast. Michael doesn't help on these desserts. And they obviously they don't get that many out, like to be completely expected. So yeah, so that's it for the red team. Second seeding has something a little more interesting happen. The red team decides to sabotage the blue team by giving them lasagnas, because recommend the lasagnas to everyone, because they know they're short on it. It's a huge pain to make. It takes the longest. Yeah, this kind of highlights. This is the most strategious season, I think. This has a lot of strategy. Michael especially tries to manipulate people. He does things for the sake of the game. He plays gamey, He reminds me a lot of the first winner of Survivor. While a lot of other people are playing this like a competition of cooking, he's treating it like a game, something to win at. Plays to make strategies. Yeah. That little spoiler alert that comes back later in the episode. So blue team, nothing incredibly exciting. Jimmy in the front of house was a little funny. He's getting very sweaty. As the customers are noting, as he gets scolded by Jean-Philippe for touching his hair, touching his face while he's all sweaty. And then blue team is dragging because of lasagnas, obviously. Andrew had some problems. Jessica had a little bit of problem. The blue team didn't send out a ton of entrees. They really got screwed by the lasagnas. They had 17 tickets left when they shut down. So that decision. Blue team send out less, but they had better quality and better service in the front of house, so they won. Which, surprising considering the sabotage they pulled off. Michael named best of worst. Surprising because he did not help his team at all. He sent out some desserts and that was about it, while everyone on entrees suffered. So, still more strategic play. He completely avoided it so he could get the chance to nominate someone. And he takes full advantage of this. He nominates Elsie and Chris. Chris was his largest competition at the time. And this is, again, Michael's strategic playing. He plays this like a game. He's a smart player. Yeah, and Chris goes home. He's an executive chef. He has very high expectations of him. So, Ramsay, he sends Chris home. I'm very glad of this. Although I didn't hate Chris, he wasn't my favorite. Elsie I definitely prefer, but I did think Chris was not the worst. He's definitely not a plank, He helped Elsie and he helped his team out, and I think he got a little screwed over by Michael. A lot screwed over by Michael. Yeah. So overall, interesting episode. A lot of strategy going on in this one, which makes it kind of interesting, You don't really see as much strategy in shows nowadays. So it's kind of interesting to see how it's changed. This was, a different. They were a lot different back then, and I guess in Hell's Kitchen. But yeah. So, strategic episode, interesting. this is a pretty good episode, all in all.